Preservation in the beta has been quite a lot of fun, and since the alpha and making my last video, I've heard plenty of takes, and I wanted to update you all on how things are feeling for preservation. So we're gonna get right into this one. My name's Baz the Healer. Hey, get subscribed if you're new here. This is now my full-time job, and let's start with disclaimers. First of all, this is a beta. Everything can and likely will change, and it's not like every phase or patch is going to fix the things that were talked about. We might not get fixes to things we reported about in the alpha until the pre-patch, so on and so forth. So just make sure to have your expectations ready for that, and make sure to get your feedback into the forums, the beta, wherever it needs to go. I'm also in a leveling dungeon doing the majority of the testing, with followers that love to run to other rooms or out of sight, or I rip thread off the tank, or they bubble taunt but they don't have the bubble taunt talent, so anyway. Also, one more thing, just be really careful not to compare this to current retail healing, because the incoming damage, the gear, the resources you have are going to be so different. Like, you're not going to be healing a Floodgate 19 with the kit that we're going to get in Midnight, right? So just remember that when you're thinking about all of these changes. First concern that was brought up to me was Spirit Bloom, and what do you do without it? Okay, Dream Breath is your new bread and butter heal. Level 1 is still a nice good heal over time effect if you want a nice long hot, or you can charge it all the way up for a big burst heal. Use that with a bunch of echoes and it's going to be doing some Spirit Bloom-esque healing. It's just that you have to make sure you aim it. No, that is the biggest difference. Spirit Bloom would bounce around the map and it was pretty generous about where it could bounce to. Dream Breath is a pretty fat cone now, and yeah, it's also 40 yards, so you get even more range with it, but positioning does really matter. So make sure you aim it in the correct direction. However, if this really concerns you, we have more movement speed in our kit, more chances at Essence Burst, Chronowarden's going to get stronger echoes and a shorter cooldown on Temporal Anomaly, Flameshaper's getting 2 charges of Dream Breath and Fire Breath. So you're going to have the tools to heal people, trust me. It's just, yes, if you mess up your positioning here, you might find that it's a little bit harder, but given that the damage is going to be a little less bursty, you'll have more time to react. That's not going to be a big issue, so I think it's a win overall. Dream Breath has always been a very flexible move. It's just before it used to be more of an auxiliary heal you use between other spells. Now it is the main heal to use, but that brings me to our next thing to discuss, the Apex talent, Marithra's Blessing. Marithra's Blessing, or MB for short, is not Spirit Bloom. It's a weaker heal that bounces around to help allies. Essence abilities, and when talented, Dream Breath can transform your reversion into Marithra's Blessing, and that's the primary method of casting it, is hitting reversion. It can be stored in stasis, it can be echoed, and in the alpha it applied a reversion, but in the beta it's only applying an echoed reversion, which I think is a bug. I have no idea what's going on with that. This move in no way replaces Spirit Bloom. However, it does sort of replace what Dream Breath used to be. It's an auxiliary heal. So let's say you have your heal over times out, you just did some burst healing, and you have a Marithra's Blessing charge, and it's just a few people who are still hurting. Dropping a few echoes, or hitting a Temporal Anomaly, and then sending out the Marithra's Blessing is a nice way to get some bonus healing done while you're doing other things. This might be particularly strong in raid if you have like a bazillion echoes out and then you hit a Marithra's Blessing, but that might be a little hard to set up, and it's kind of a random chance, or you have to use Dream Breath and that might eat the echoes, whatever. It's fun, it's functional, it's a good time, but it's not a replacement for our missing spell. But if the idea of 4 more talent points in our Prez tree sounds tantalizing as opposed to maybe putting it in Apex talents, it should sound tantalizing. The reworked talent tree is fantastic. The new nodes are incredibly strong, the old nodes that got reworked are stronger, and there's a lot of choices you can make. I'm not going to go over too much off-meta building right now, but I really think for those of you who seek the off-meta, and for those of you who like more traditional Temporal Anomaly style Prez, you're all in for a treat. So don't feel like you need to be married to your Apex talents. I have a feeling we'll probably be taking them in raid pretty often, but in dungeons, I think you can get away with running other talents. Playstyle wise for Preservation Evoker, everything else works as it once did. Now, the biggest change is Lifebind. Verdant Embrace no longer gives Lifebind through Echo, meaning you can still apply a Lifebind to 2, maybe 3 targets, you and 1 other or you and 2 others, and it lasts a little bit longer and it's a bit stronger. It's stronger only for those 2 to 3 players. But that's not a bad thing. And Verdant Embrace itself has been made stronger with its own choice node as well. You can either get 2 charges of Verdant Embrace or a ranged Verdant Embrace that is more powerful. And both of these have fantastic uses. and you'll still get a lot of good cleave healing if you hit 3 targets with the 2 charge Verdant Embrace Lifebind, which is quite handy. But when it comes to the hero talents, there's actually been a good number of changes here, some of which are more in the core preservation tree, some of which are actually in the hero tree. Now, I want to dive into both of these, but before I do, I keep getting people stopping my stream and saying Chronowarden is dead, Flameshaper is now the best. Stop it. It's not even out yet. Chronowarden does feel like it's missing something, and Flameshaper feels like it might be rather loaded. But from all of my testing, Chronowarden has advantages that I still find very potent and useful in the dungeon environment. There's now, for instance, bronze healing and absorbs that can be increased within the talent tree. Now, while I do hope Chronowarden gets just a little bit more strength by comparison, there's a lot to talk about with how these trees have changed. So let's start with Flameshaper. Gone is Engulf. You might miss the gigantic numbers, but I'm not going to miss the very clunky setups. The highlights are that you now get 2 Fire Breath charges and 2 Dream Breath charges, which is as strong as you think it is. Remember that your Dream Breath has been buffed inside of the class tree as well. So not only is it more powerful all of the time, you have more talents that buff it up, but also you get that 10 seconds off of its cooldown like you did on Spirit Bloom. This means that that spell is a 20-second recharge instead of a 30-second. You're going to have that Dream Breath up way more often than you might think. You could consider having a very long-lasting heal over time that lasts for 10,000 years. You could do 2 giant burst heals back to back, mix and match depending on what your team needs. It's a really great feeling. Essence Burst has a 50% chance to proc when you hit a breath spell as well. There's cooldown reduction on Fire Breath. There's plenty of stuff to be excited about. But more importantly, and maybe the most important, is that Consume Flame has been entirely reworked. No longer does consuming Dream Breath heal the whole party. Instead, Verdant Embrace will rip 4 seconds off the target and heal that individual target for 200% of the amount of time consumed off of the Dream Breath, and Emerald Blossom will get 2 seconds off of the Dream Breath amount and heal that target. However, because it can hit 3 to 5 targets, it's in essence an AoE heal. That might make people worried, do they have to use Emerald Blossom? Maybe in Raid. I'm not talking about Raid just yet, and also I just don't have anything to test for Raid, so I wouldn't overthink it too much. However, you can just kind of use Verdant Embrace to get a little bit of extra healing. It doesn't feel like it's really bursty healing anymore. In fact, it feels a little more like a rod heal, a heal over time effect, where you're getting smaller amounts of healing from different sources, and when you're getting Blossom heals and Consume Breath heals and Dream Breath ticks, you end up getting quite a lot of healing. But it isn't that snap the fingers, engulf, and then instantly blow up the target, healing them to full kind of thing that you might be used to. What makes it feel stronger than Chronowarden right now is that it's kind of loaded with a lot of good sounding talents. Extra damage from the Fire Breath, extra healing from the Dream Breath, extra healing from the Fire Breath, and not to mention there's that whole choice node where you can opt into getting extra healing and damage over time with your Essence abilities, so you could further stack all of those effects if you so choose. And there's a new Twin Flame. When you Essence Burst somebody with an Echo, you're going to send out like a twin flame towards them and it'll bounce to another target, helping heal them. It makes your spot healing with echoes a lot more consistent and a lot better. So while you're in the ramping process, you'll still get a lot of extra healing done. For some of you, Flameshaper sounds like it's going to be everything you ever wanted, and I mean, it's really, really fun. However, it doesn't feel like it has the same snap healing that Chronowarden has. It definitely has some, but there's some serious advantages on Chronowarden that feel like it's a little more instant in terms of saving people's lives. However, this can go wide. Lots of heal over times, extra burst healing. It feels like it can do just about everything very well. But until I can actually get in a dungeon, it's really hard to tell you which one is definitely better right now, because what if the damage is more bursty? Well, then Chronowarden might actually feel better. But what if I need a lot of healing for a long period of time? Well, then Flameshaper might be the obvious winner here. So it's tough to call right now. But if it sounds like it's fun and you want to give it a shot, do it. This is some of the smoothest Flameshaper has ever been. The rework is truly a godsend. Have fun with it. Now it's time to go on to Chronowarden, and it's not as grim as anyone might have told you. First of all, we have a lot of healing support within our preservation tree. It's true that Flameshaper might want to take these talents too, and Mirthra's Blessing is looking like it might be very strong in Raid. However, there's a lot to love here. We have bonus bronze healing. We have increased healing over time effects after a major cooldown, instant cast Living Flames, and our Verdant Embrace can either be stronger or have 2 charges. That one's pretty important because Spirit Bloom's no longer with us, so the heal over time effect that we used to get inside of the Chronowarden tree is now on Verdant Embrace. So think about it. Either you can get a more powerful Verdant Embrace effect that you could echo and give people a stronger heal over time with and a stronger heal, or you can go for the 2 charges and use Lifebind to kind of cleave heal 2 to 3 targets kind of easily, while echoing the 4th or maybe the 5th to get some healing onto them while you pick up the pieces. Also, Temporal Anomaly has better absorb on it because of that bronze healing talent, and it has less mana cost with more time taken off of its cooldown, meaning it's up way more often. Tip the Scales is now a 1.5 minute cooldown. You're going to get 6 Essence Burst, I believe, if I did my math right, over that Temporal Burst window, that giant buff you get after hitting Tip the Scales. And your Chrono Flames do even more follow-up damage in healing. The weakest part about this tree is truly that After Images got nerfed, and After Images didn't really get nerfed, it's just that Spirit Bloom no longer exists. So those follow-up Living Flames or Chrono Flames that we get from our empowered spells are the same, it's just you have 1 spell less of getting those extra heals. Now, if you wanted a point to adjust Chronowarden to be as strong as Flameshaper, at least in dungeons, I think this is the point you take. Maybe make After Images send out more Living Flames, or maybe we could get Twin Flames from Augmentation Evoker. That way we could be getting cleaving damage and cleaving heals with our Chrono Flames. I feel like that'd be a really good job at making things feel a little more even. But once we hit level 90 endgame skips, I'll actually be able to test everything I've said here. I think spending more points for utility and healing in the Prez tree is going to do wonders for Chronowarden. Yes, again, Flameshaper can take those too, but just given how flexible Chronowarden is, it feels like it might be a really powerful choice for the way they play, especially in dungeons. Now, for you raiders out there, I did want to give you some ideas. I'm not really crunching a ton of raid numbers, and I don't really raid anymore, but here's what's looking strong. First of all, Flameshaper Blossom builds where you get out a ton of Dream Breaths and then you spew out a ton of Blossoms and just keep proccing Consume Flames. That sounds like it might be a lot of fun. There's also a world where you just get out a bunch of Dream Breaths, then hit a Dream Flight or a Stasis, probably Dream Flight, and get stronger heal over time effects on everyone. That could be powerful. There's also a world where you throw out a Temporal Anomaly, echo some people up, and then full charge of Dream Breath, burst heal, throw out a Temporal Anomaly, full charge of Dream Breath, burst heal. That might work. That sounds fun. All of those sound like they're worth testing. On the Chronowarden side of things, I'm thinking Machine Gun's probably still on the menu, just like the War Within. Machine Gun and Marithra's Blessing might be a really nice combo, and if there's a way to get that healing back damage taken talent that's in Marithra's Blessing onto like the whole raid, I think that one could be unbelievably powerful. But there's a lot to be said here about 2-minute rewinds, mana recovery, and firing on all cylinders just like the War Within. Your Temporal Anomaly costs less mana, your echoes are stronger, your bronze healing can be talented to do more work. So there's also this angle in my head where I'm thinking Dragonflight Season 1, get everyone covered in reversions, and then hit the Dream Flight, get all this boosted heal over time healing, but then unlike Flameshaper, you start doing smart Machine Gun healing rather than, say, filling in the gaps with more Dream Breaths or Living Flames. Who knows? Something about this sounds incredibly fun to me, so I'll definitely be giving this one a try personally. And all of this is great news, however, we don't know what any of the encounters look like. What's M+ gonna look like? What's raid gonna look like? What's the kind of incoming damage that we're going to look for? And you might have been seeing these follower dungeons. They're a leveling dungeon, so maybe they're scaling incorrectly right now and we're going to take less damage. Maybe the followers are just terrible running around and always causing me issues, and I'm running into my mana bar getting low. I don't know if my mana bar is just getting low because I've had to sacrifice some mana talents in order to test more interactions, or if because of the playstyle changes, I'm dipping into my mana. Or I'm dipping into my mana because the followers are unruly and very hard to heal. Now, as for the development team, I do have some critique. You've already heard that I think After Images on Chronowarden likely need some love. Or you could just give us Twin Flame from Augmentation. I'm just saying, I would love that. The other is that Marithra's Blessing still doesn't proc off Disintegrate, but with the way it's written, it sounds like that should work. And I think that's a really nice interaction to be able to beam something, get some mana back, do some damage, and oh, here's a Marithra's Blessing proc for the road. My only other concerns are a few bugs, and more importantly, the nameplate stacking is really bad. I really hate the way the nameplates stack. I really want this to change because I would like to use almost all default UI. I would like to not have to use something like Plater next expansion, but I will. But oh, I'm not liking the way it stacks right now. The other is that, and this bug is actually completely fixed right now, masculine body Drakthir voice lines work again, and femme Drakthir are no longer getting random masculine voice lines when they're being played. I hope that can remain. That's been a problem on retail, and I do know people who experience things such as dysphoria when they're playing their girl boss Drakthir and then they hear some coming out of the character. So I hope that can remain fixed, as that's a pretty important one for at least me and my community. Also, just some feedback, the Flameshaper changes are actually everything I ever wanted. I made a video back in the War Within about how I felt like Flameshaper was lacking. It just lacked the fantasy that Chronowarden provided. It just felt a little underbaked and it wasn't very fun to use, although it was a cool idea conceptually. I just ended up not really liking it. This feels like a true Flameshaper, Dream Shaper. It's not clunky, it's buttery smooth, and it has its whole identity that's totally separate from Chronowarden. The fact that we have two such distinct playstyles that are fun, kind of like how Discipline Priest had Oracle and it had Void Weaver, this sort of feels like that, where there's two very distinct styles that have their own fantasies and their own advantages and disadvantages. Great work. I truly, truly love it. But that's going to do it for this one. All of you, please leave some comments and some thoughts down below. I'd love to read them, but don't doom down there. Be kind. Remember, these people are working their hardest on a game, so I don't want to see anyone being too mean down there. But critique is important, especially during the beta period. All right, that's it. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one.